afraid that I'm an inveterate doom scroller. For those of you who don't know what doom scrolling is, it means that I just cannot help refreshing my web browser to verify that the world outside in the news is as bad and maintains its badness as I suspect. Spoiler alert, it is. But it's one of the reasons why I'm so grateful for Sherith Israel is because it's the perfect antidote for doom scrolling. For one thing, it's just really bad form to hide your phone in your Siddur. Everybody knows, I tell my students that all the time, nobody gets away with it. But it's also the gift of Shabbat that reminds us that we face struggles, that this moment in history, which is so difficult, is also not unprecedented. And it gives us the context to contend with those times. It also reminds us to let go of it and to just be here and to breathe and to be vulnerable and to be together supportive. In addition, the best antidote to the doom scrolling and to the difficulties of the world is to take action. And the collective action that we're capable of here is so much more than we can do individually. I can't end world hunger on my own, but I know that my work here supports hamotzi and chicken soupers that puts food in the mouths of those who need it. I can't solve the immigration crisis or any of the other social injustices that we face on my own, but together we can make a meaningful difference in the lives of those who are affected. I encourage you, if you can, to continue to be involved in the many programs we have that continue to bring into manifestation the values that we hold dear through our many programs and opportunities. And if you don't have the time or the energy, or if anything else prevents you from volunteering with a committee, then know that the work you do to contribute to the dues or to the annual fund helps support all of that. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for all you do. On a personal note, thank you so much for being the antidote to my doom scrolling. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Eric. Thought doom scrolling was a really dramatic name for rolling the Torah, but apparently not. All right. Let's invite up Nancy Davis, please, to light candles for us.
Ha'olam asher kirshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlikner shel Shabbat.
Beautiful chanting, Nancy. Thank you. Yasher koach. So now that we have formally welcomed Shabbat by lighting our Shabbat candles, let's welcome the Shabbat angels, the Shabbat bride, with the words of Lecha Dodi. It can be found on page 20. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, ושמו תפארת ולי תהילה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי. אורי, אורי, שדברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. We rise as we are able. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה. תוך אמוניה עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. 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 Okay, now that we have formally welcomed Shabbat, let's all take a seat. And we now like to turn to page 28 for the Baruch Hu. So, please everyone rise again. See, we also don't do the sits and stands in Cantor School, apologies. Let's all rise for our Baruch Hu. Yai dai dai yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai dai yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai dai yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai dai yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai dai yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai dai yai dai 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 dai. Baruchu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam vaed. Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam vaed. Yai dai dai yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai dai yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. 31. Let's read in the English at the bottom of page 31. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv ha'ravim. We turn to Ahavat Olam on page 32. Ahavat Olam Bet Yisrael Amcha Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu B'shochbeinu v'kumeinu Nasiach b'chukecha ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגן יומם אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Let's read the English at the bottom of page 38. Okay. I'm going to start reading, and you can help out the microphones. All this we hold to be true and trustworthy for us. You alone are our God, and we are Israel, your people. You are sovereign and Savior, who delivers us from oppressors' hands and saves us from tyrants' fists. Without number, marvels beyond count. You give us life and steady our footsteps. You performed miracles for us before Pharaoh, signs and wonders in the lands of the Egyptians. You led your people Israel out from their midst to freedom for all time. When your children witnessed your dominance, they praised your name in gratitude, and they accepted your sovereignty. Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you together, lifting their voices joyously. On page 43, we read at the bottom in the English, "Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haboreh sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim." At this time, we think of those. At this time, we will recite the Hashkivenu prayer. point in our service, we think of those in need of healing, whether it's body, mind, or spirit. We recite our Mishibera Prayer, which can be found on page 253.
Source of strength, oh bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen.
This time, our community thinks of Devorah, Shoshana Hannah Asher, Sharon Carmen, Jeremy Frick, Michael Gaines, Mikiko Huang, William Kurian, Carolyn Resnikoff, Agnes Rothblatt, and Annette Weiner. If there are any names that you're holding in your hearts, please say them out loud as my eyes meet yours.
Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
We rise now for our standing prayer, our Amidah, our central prayers, the prayers of our hearts, the prayers of our own private needs in the world and the world's needs from us. Let's join together in the Adonai Sfatai.
Adonai Sfatai tiftach, Adonai Sfatai tiftach, Ofiyagi Tehilatecha, Ofiyagi Sfatai tiftach, Adonai Sfatai tiftach, Ofiyagi Tehilatecha, Ofiyagi Tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, ve'Konei Hakol, ve'Zocher Chasdei Avot ve'Imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה על החיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. We take a few moments for silent prayer.
So I had just finished writing my sermon today, and I was on Facebook and noticed that a colleague in Baltimore had just written this beautiful piece that we just heard. Achen yesh Adonai bamakom hazeh ve'anochi lo yadati. Surely God is in this place, and I did not know. And those words are taken from our Torah portion this week. We're going to delve into these verses, but I sprung this on the choir with about 10 minutes notice, and they sang it so beautifully. So thank you so much to Coleno. So I was very excited when I realized that the sermon this evening coincided with one of my favorite moments in the Torah, Jacob's ladder. So in our previous parsha, Jacob has recently deceived Isaac, right? He's gotten his older brother's birthright, and now he sets out to Beersheba, from Beersheba to Haran. And as he's traveling and the sun sets, he decides to rest with his head on a stone. He dreams of a ladder, a stairway, a sulam, it could be a ladder or a stairway, reaching to the skies with angels ascending and descending. God promises Jacob, just as with his original covenant with Abraham, that his descendants will spread throughout the land and be like the dust of the earth. God hears this prophecy and is dumbfounded. He says, Achen yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh, ve'anochi lo yadati. Truly God is in this place, and I did not know it. He then goes on to say, Manora hamakom hazeh, ein zeh ki im bet Elohim bezeh sha'ar hashamayim. How full of awe is this place. Surely it is the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. Much has been written about what this ladder and the angels represent, so let's look at what the ancient rabbis thought of this text. Ibn Ezra actually elucidates some of the interpretations of the time. There were those who said the ladder seen by Jacob refers to a statue. This is based on gematria, right? This is mathematical Jewish kind of numerology. So rearranging the letters of sulam, ladder, gives us semel, which means statue. So semel in Sinai are numerically equivalent to 130. Therefore, apparently, if you change the word to statue, you get to the number 130. And so somehow that represents the covenant with Sinai. So basically, Ibn Ezra says that is nonsense. That doesn't make any sense. He refers to Ibn Gabirol, not to be confused with Ibn Ezra, saying that Jacob's ladder alludes to man's heavenly soul and that the angels of God signify thoughts of wisdom. He then throws a bit of shade on these commentators. He says they have apparently not studied the prophecies of Zechariah, Amos, and Jeremiah. The way to interpret Jacob's dream is to view it as a parable. It teaches that nothing is hidden from God and that what happens below is contingent on the decree from above. There is thus, as it were, a ladder linking heaven and earth by which angels ascend to inform God what they have seen on earth after going over it. Scripture also states that other angels came down to fulfill God's commands. The imagery presented is that of a king and his servants. So basically, Ibn Ezra basically says that this is all a metaphor as kind of that God's kingship and this fancy ladder is basically just a bunch of angel bureaucracy going up and down. And so Jacob then has the chutzpah to bargain with God. He says, if God is with me and watches over me on this path that I'm taking and gives me bread to eat and clothes to wear, and if I return safely to my father's house, then will the Eternal be my God. And this stone that I have set up as a monument shall be a house of God. And all that you give me, I will dedicate 1/10 to you. He focuses on heavenly promise and reward, and he seems to act as if he's testing God. Clearly, he's not convinced about God's promise. Despite his doubt, what is really striking in this passage is that after focusing on the vision and the angels and the bargaining, Jacob turns his attention to the rocks he was just sleeping on. He focuses on place. Manora hamakom hazeh. How awe-filled is this place? Not how wondrous is this ladder or angels, but this rock will be a monument to the house of God. The Gemara cites another exposition from Rabbi Yitzchak to explain an apparent contradiction between two verses about this incident. So in Genesis 28:11, it's written, and he took of the stones of the place and placed them under his head and lay down in that place to sleep. But in 28:18, it says, and it is written, and Jacob rose up early in the morning and he took the stone that he had placed under his head and set it up for a pillar and poured oil upon the top of it. So is it stones or is it stone? And of course, we have a very strange interpretation that's kind of beautiful. You know, the rabbis, if there's some kind of grammatical error or the story doesn't quite line up, there is a very mystical hidden meaning. So what Rabbi Yitzchak says, this teaches that all those stones gathered to one place, and each one said, "Let this righteous man place his head upon me." And it was taught, and all of them were absorbed into one large rock. So we have all these little rocks supporting the head of the righteous man, which is just a beautiful teaching that's probably based on some erroneous text, but I really love it. The Talmud teaches that it wasn't even about the vision. It wasn't about the angels. It was about the rocks. Hamakom supporting the rest of the righteous person. When someone dies in Judaism, a later phrase which developed as a traditional greeting for mourners is Hamakom yinachem etchem betoch sha'ar avalei Tzion v'Yerushalayim, or may God comfort you among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. We mention the land of Israel, but instead, God has become literally Hamakom, the place. As we search for meaning and recalibrate our lives around the new normal, which seems to be all new on a pretty weekly basis, I cannot think of more fitting imagery. Don't look to the skies for some divine teaching or revelation that there'll be some greater wisdom gathered by watching the angels. They're going to keep ascending and descending, and there's nothing we can do. Instead, focus on this place in time, Hamakom. How can we support each other and be a rock for one another after so much grief and mourning in our communities? In the months and years to come, let's focus on building holiness and connection in our own communities and infusing this place, our synagogue community, with this solidarity. Let's gather together all our rocks to support each other and rebuild as a monument to righteousness, just like Jacob. Manora hamakom hazeh. How full of awe is this place. Surely it is the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. Shabbat shalom. At this time, we would like to think of any wonderful new events and news that have happened in our community. Anyone have any acknowledgements? Of course, I would like to take time this evening to offer a blessing of strength and solidarity to those who have protected and continue to protect this country in the armed forces, and we honor their sacrifice and service for Veterans Day just yesterday. Any other honors? Okay, well, I'm going to say Shehechianu for doing my first service alone with the congregation. So let's do it. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Amen. Let's please rise for the Aleinu. On page 282. Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. We think now of those we have lost recently or in years past. We remember for Shiva, Adrian, Christine. If anyone is thinking of anyone, please be seated. If anyone's in a period of mourning in Shloshim, please rise and say a name. If anyone's in Shana, the first year of mourning, please rise and say a name. At this time, I would like to invite up Jonathan Dimmick, who is going to share a few words about Adrian Christine, who is such a vital and wonderful part of our choir.
I think it was about 10 years ago that Adrian approached our synagogue and me and asked to be part of the choir. And I was talking with her about her history. And like me, she shared a coming from, in her case, Catholicism into Judaism. And so she and I had a little wink about things that we used to joke about many times, and her presence in the choir was one of the most heartfelt of all the singers. She had the boldness to sing the tenor line when most women sing soprano or alto lines, and she was completely comfortable in herself and loved music. She loved singing in the choir. Her favorite piece happened to be Mishibera, and I remember one time I was rehearsing and we were doing the piece in parts, and I said, "Adrian, where's your music?" And she said, "I have it in my head." And that was who she was. She just carried in her head and in her heart all her music, and so we will miss her very much, and may her memory always be a blessing to us all.
Thank you, Jonathan. We rise as one community to recite Kaddish. At the conclusion of the Kaddish, we will sing a setting of Oseh Shalom in honor and memory of Adrian Christine. We recite together on page 294. Yit Gadal, apologies. We also today remember the yahrzeits of Robert C. Abrams, Bernice Berman, Evelyn Bischoff, Samuel Adams Blatteis, Jerome Bronfeld, Miriam Carmen, Sylvia Collier, David Daniel Feynman, Heinz Frankenstein, Pearl Caston Jones, George Nathan, Bertha Nelson, Gertrude Neuberger, Herbert Resnikoff, Mary Ryabinakaya, Anita Silverstein, Alex Stern, and Seymour Weinstein. We rise as one community to recite the Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'Yit Kadash, Shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divrach Yeruteh v'yamlich malchuteh. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru, Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal Shmei d'kudsha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru, Amen. Okay, announcements. Next week we have a conversation with, this is not the right thing. Sorry, okay. We have on November 13th, we have tomorrow morning Torah study with Nancy Sheftel Gomez on Zoom. Please join that. It's going to be, I'm sure, a very lively discussion. We have a Bar Mitzvah in the afternoon of November 20th at 4:30. That's Benjamin Keston. And then Hanukkah Shabbat on December 3rd, where we will have the wonderful Koleno Choir. That was a plug. I will be installed formally into the woodwork, and it should be a lot of fun. And apart from that, please join us for Adrian Christine's memorial on Sunday at 1:30 p.m. in the chapel, if you are able. There will also be a Shiva minyan at 6 p.m. Details have been sent out by email. And from there, I'd like to invite Chris Vogt, please, to lead us in Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho
Please rise.
v'yahava uvratzon inkyatanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit Ki hu yom tequila lemikra e kodesh zeker ziad Mitzrayim Ki vanu vakarta ve'atanu kidashta mikol hamim ve'shabbat kodsheka be'ava uvratzon inkatanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen.
L'chaim. Take a sip if you... Well, there we go. It's all right. The carpet's red. Mazel tov. We've got a real proper true tenor up here. And finally, let's invite up Ruth Auerbach, who might actually have a BYO challah, I believe. Excellent. Going to give us some challah details?
Yeah, just a brief one. Adrian was a vegan and has been for a long time. And so in her memory and honor, I made this week a vegan challah with currants in it to represent all of our best wishes to her and her loved ones.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you so much.
we also have the,
That's all right. You can
COVID safe one, but
We'll make that's
Yes.
a nice challah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon.
Te'avon, amen.
Te'avon.
Thank you, Ruth. And I'm sure if you are comfortable, Ruth will be sharing this challah.
If people are comfortable.
Anything else? No. Thank you so much to Zach Migdale. Thank you so much to Peter Bonos. And thank you, of course, to our music director, Jonathan Dimmick. It's always such a pleasure. And thank you, of course, to the members of our Koleno Choir who brought so much joy to our service this evening. We close with Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom Mimromav Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel Ve'imru Amen. Yai da 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 yai da 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 yai da 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 yai da 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 yai da 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 yai da 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 yai da 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 yai da 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 Oseh Shalom Bimromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel Ve'imru Amen. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו Shabbat Shalom.